Hi everybody, welcome back. Today we're talking about melody and composition. Melody refers to a musical idea consisting of individual consecutive pitches or a single musical line. Melody is distinct from harmony, and what we've just covered, of course, in terms of creating our chords. A melody is heard as single notes, while harmony features notes sounding together. Melodies can be built as few as 2 notes, and they can stretch for hundreds of notes. One thing to note as well, melodies all take material from the same 12-note chromatic scale that you've all studied. So then what is a line? A line is what happens note to note. It's the microscopic view of the process of melody writing. A line comes in 2 different types, conjunct and disjunct. Conjunct melody lines are step-based lines or scale lines. They do not skip, but instead move along a scale. The melodic movement of a second is a step. So I've got that here. The movement between the highlighted notes is movement by a step here from F, A, or F, G to A, all in steps. Conjunct melody lines include passing tones, which is a melodic embellishment, typically a non-chord tone, that occurs between 2 stable tones, typically chord tones, creating stepwise motion. The highlighted note in this melodic phrase is an example of a passing tone, and that's here highlighted. A note next to a chord tone is called a neighboring tone. The highlighted note in this phrase is an example of a neighboring tone, and as you can see, it comes back down to the tonic. Just 1 note up and then right back. Disjunct melody lines are also known as chord lines. They're not stepwise and don't follow the scale as conjunct lines, but do instead skip around. This is not to say that they're not part of the scale. Here's a melodic movement of more than a third, which is called a leap. You can see her going from F to A, or anything above. So what is counterpoint then? Sometimes melodic lines work together by having contrasting movement. Counterpoint below is showing that I've got here the melodic line happening up, but the bass line is going down, as you can see. So the melody line and the bass line move in the opposite motion. When the lead goes up, the bass moves up. When the melody line goes down, the bass goes down. So then what is rhythm within our melody line? It's one of the best ways to bring out interest in your melody. Take some time, write a rhythm before choosing pitches. Anything. Make a triplet, change the rhythm, change the time signature, whatever you decide that you want to do. And of course, in our exercises, we would say probably stay away from 16th notes. So I might just put down 1/8 notes, half notes. Whatever you write, try to create something on the rhythmic level that's somewhat interesting. Then add the notes and the chords. Try to make them all work together. And that's hopefully going to create some type of syncopation. Rhythmically emphasizing notes that are not on the metric pulse is called syncopation. So here is a great phrase with syncopation. As you can see here, the pulse would be right on 5, but as you see, it starts over that phrase, and so on. Also, maybe try using a pickup. In relation to the phrase that starts on the downbeat, the highlighted note of this example is a pickup. You see where we would start right on the downbeat, but I'm going to have a note right before it. Also, harmony. Melody outlines harmony, and harmony conducts melody. It really helps to have an understanding of harmony and practicing all of your chords and their inversions. And of course, in this class, we're not telling you that you're going to be playing and having to practice through all of these inversions, but it certainly does help. Melody outlines harmony because every chord has chord tones. These tones define what the chord is. For example, the tonic in C has C, E, and G, of course. And if your melody hits those notes, especially in the strong beats like 1 and 3, when writing in 4/4, then you're outlining the harmony. When the notes of the chord are played in succession, we create anticipation. So what is anticipation? It's essentially a stable tone that comes too early. And anticipation is typically a non-chord tone that will occur immediately before a change of harmony. It'll be followed on the chord change by the same note, and now a chord tone of the new harmony. The last note highlighted in this phrase is an example of anticipation. As you can see, we start that note, the note of the tonic here, before we get into that note. So contour. Contour refers to the sequence of motions between notes of a melody. So in other words, contour is a measurement of how a melody moves between individual notes. All melodies have contour, and it's one of the properties that are most useful in identifying melody. Contour is where you're not just concerned of what happens from note to note, but over the entire length of the melody. The 4 types of melodic motion and contour. Theorists example a melody's contour by looking at the motion between individual notes. A melody can move up by a step, and we just talked about that. It can move down by a step. It can move up by a leap. It can move down by a leap. All very simple concepts. The exact combination of these 4 motions that a melody possesses gives it its contour. And of course, we can put all of these together, and that's what creates our sequence. So you can move up by a step, down by a step, make a leap, down by a step. That's the whole idea of the musicianship and the artistry of creating our melody. We're going to try to put all of these together to try to make something, hopefully wonderful. Let's get into range. Range has to do with what you're composing the melody for. So, for example, are you composing for keyboards, or you're composing for trumpet? Basically, you want the instrument to sound natural, so you don't want to have too big of a range if you're writing for a singer, or let's say, for example, a guitar player or something like that. So range is very important when it comes down to the melody line, because maybe some of you might be writing for a different instrument. It's not necessarily just going to be a keyboard, right? In the case of what we're working with here, we're working with keyboards, so we've got access to obviously a broad range of frequency. And last, we want to talk about form, the final detail in melody writing. The form outlines when and how you build your music. You don't want the most interesting elements in your music to be at the end. And when it comes down to popular music, the chorus hits. Usually it's the most dramatic, the biggest range in terms of melodic movement, biggest volume changes. And so usually in popular music we have these forms: A, B, C, B. Motown, for example, we have the verse, which is the A section. The B is going to be the chorus. Back to the verse, which is the A section, to the chorus. The C section is what we'd call the bridge, and then back to the chorus. That's almost all Motown music. As you can see here, this is a lot of EDM. A, B, A, which is the verse goes to a chorus, and then it goes back out to the verse and out. So the verse is the A section. Less memorable part, that's the basis for the song: quieter, lower, more varied, usually less repetitive. The chorus is the more memorable part of the song, the hook, the highlight of the song. It's louder, higher, more synchronized, more repetitive. The bridge is a contrasting section of the song. Verse, refrain, a verse with the hook of the song as the final end, or the final end of the line, and usually there's no chorus after that. It's just that out. Intro is the presentation of the parts of the song in the beginning, of course. Pre-chorus, a section that leads from verse to chorus, and the outro is a summary section of the song at the end. And in this case, if we have this idea of our form, then that's going to tell us maybe potentially how we are writing our melody lines. So for example, our intro, we might be writing our melody lines with lines that will go up in motion, for example, to build into something. Maybe potentially on our outro, we might have melody lines that will go down in motion, for example, because the song itself is ending. Or vice versa, maybe we want to end on a crescendo and make that melody line really break open potentially. But There are no rules to this, and with that said, hopefully this helps you in terms of your creation of melody. As always, let us know if you have any questions. Please feel free to email me, text me, let me know if you need anything. Take care, everybody.